So you have to really just speak into yourself what the Lord speaks to you and know that He, in His right time, He will complete what He started. I am blessed, I am blessed. I am blessed, I am blessed. I am blessed, I am. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. I'm so excited that you came to join me for another week with Lynn with God. I created this series to share my experiences of how God transformed my life to encourage and strengthen your journey with Him. This week's topic will be called In Due Time, and I believe this is an important topic because we all struggle with waiting on God's timing, finding the appropriate things to kind of do as we wait, and trusting that in His timing, things will progress and unfold the way it's supposed to. So let's jump right into today's message. So a lot of times we struggle with knowing, number one, what we're supposed to be doing in our lives, and also following what God says to us. And not only following, but waiting. In our lives as Christians or followers of Jesus, there's a lot of waiting that is going to happen. And that in our minds means that, okay, God, maybe you have forgotten about us, you're not thinking about us, like what is going on, what should we do? But a lot of times He wants us to be still in this time and be patient and literally rely on Him and hear His voice when to move to the next step, when to stay, and when to just rest. The word rest is so important because if you look back on this year for yourself, have you truly rested? Have you truly waited on the Lord to hear Him? Or did you just say, oh, I'm just going to do it by all means, Am I going to just do it in my own strength, in my own will, and, God will make a way? I understand the saying that it says, faith without works is dead. But sometimes, and don't get mad at me when I say this, sometimes we do too much works and too little faith to rely on God. There has to be a balance. You understand? Yes, work. Yes, put in the energy. Yes, do the grind, but also listen to God and the things that He's saying. So that takes me to my next point. I think the one thing that's scary for all of us is that when it means in due time, we don't know when that time is exactly. It can be tomorrow, it can be next week, it can be next year. So I feel like the uncertainty makes us feel like questioning God in a way like, what is going on? I've done everything that you said and I'm not seeing the fruits of my labor. I've done X, Y, and Z and nothing has changed in my life. But I want to share a story, a personal experience with me that really transformed the way I saw God and really humbled me. And I haven't really shared this publicly, only a few people know. So during my time, when I was I was actually a resident already. When you've been in school for a while, you kind of forget, everything gets mixed up. But I was a resident already, doing well, excelling, and I was in my early stages of third year of residency, so about a year ago. And it was time to take my last board examination. So I was prepping, I was doing everything I was supposed to do while working during the same time. This is the only board exam that I have to work and study. So that on its own was challenging, because imagine a resident, you're doing your 60 hours a week, you're working your weekend shifts, and you have to still tend to this, requirement that you have to do, So I was just doing the same things that I was doing for my first and second board examinations. And when it was time to take those practice tests, it wasn't that great, but as you know, I have experience of, taking practice tests and not getting good results. And I passed during that time. So I thought again to myself, why would it not produce the same fruits? And what I believe that led me astray is that I wasn't really seeking God in terms of what I should do next. I was just saying, you know what, I did it already, I've done it already and I succeeded. And so why would it not bring the same fruits as before? And not really seeking Him to say, God, should I really delay on this process? And also, I did a lot of looking at what other people were doing. There were other people in my year who were taking the exam and they were passing. It was like, oh, it's so easy. You don't have to study. You don't have to do too much. And I want to really guide and caution you on taking in what everyone else says, even if you're following the same journey as them, because in reality, God is aligning your life very different from the way He aligned their life. There's some trials that they may have experienced, but they're not really going to share and be open with you. But the trials that they succeed in, they're willing to share and give encouragement and all of that. So in my head, I'm like, God, listen, all these people are saying it's easy to do it and all that. So why not no more than me? I can do it. But if I really sat down and seek God's wisdom and His knowledge and His understanding, I believe that I would have heard him say, Linda, you don't got it right now. It's not what you think it is. You need more time. And for me, delay was kind of a form of rejection, thinking like, if everyone else can do it, why do I have to wait? Why do I have to be the one to now, delay it 2 months, 3 months? No, I can do it. And in that season, I'm going to be honest, I became prideful. Like, I was just like, look at my stats, look at everything I've done, everything would go well. And I wish now, looking back again, that I was obedient to the word of, God, or even took the time to even talk to him, So I took the test and the results came out 2 weeks ago. And I was really like praying during the time, like, Lord, you've done it before. I know you give me the passing again and all that. Because we come, like, we don't seek him, but then in the results or at the second end, when things have been done, we want to now lean on him and all of that. But we have to realize that we have to be obedient from the beginning to the end. We can't just say, oh Lord, okay, we did whatever we wanted to do. Now, can you just like put your hand on it? Like, that's not how God works. God is not a magician. He's not somebody that, like a genie that we rub on the bottom, just like, okay, God, do these things, and he grants us 3 wishes. Like, no, he wants to take us through a process to refine us and to make us better for not only ourselves, but for other people. So the results came out 2 weeks ago, and on the day I was praying hard. Like, I was just like, Lord, I know you can do this. You have done this for me before, X, Y, and Z. And funny enough, I know the Lord is humorous, because I know now, after I have thankfully passed and all that, he looks back and he's like, yeah, girl, you did not pass that exam. But anyways, I opened the results and it was fail. And I was so like brokenhearted, because I'm like, oh, what did I do wrong? And you go through these things and you're like, God, why? What is going on? All these things. And I wanted to tie it to the story of Hannah. There's a story in the book of Samuel, and we're gonna go there together. And it's 1 Samuel chapter 1 and verse 2. So Hannah had a husband who had 2 wives, right? And she could not have any children. And during this time, she was really grieved because she couldn't have any children, because the other wife really caused her a lot of distress and, made fun of her and picked her and truly made her feel bad because she was not able to bear any children. And in the story, it tells us that the husband loved her dearly. So every year they would go up and worship and sacrifice. And this was the time that the family would be all together and enjoying the time and all of that. And when it was time to eat, Hannah was so sad because she's dealing with this other wife who's pretty much tormenting her because she doesn't have any children. And if like in these stories, having children is like a sign of womanhood. It's a sign of like you're able to create a lineage, not only for yourself, but for your husband, right? So Hannah was so grieved, and she didn't even want to eat. So her husband was just like, Hannah, I'm going to give you double portion because I love you that much, right? And she was just like, okay, he's talking to me. Let me just take this food. Let me eat. But I'm still grieved, and she didn't want it to be something that like, even though he's showing her this love and this care, her husband, that she wouldn't like respond in a good way. However, she got up and went to go pray, and she went to pray so powerfully that even one of the priests and the pastors thought, because her mouth was moving and she wasn't making any words, that she was drunk. But she was just so passionate and seeking the Lord of what she should do during this time, right? Like, all of the other wives' children were growing, and they were grown, and years have gone by and she wasn't able to have any children. So you can understand, in this time, she probably was frustrated. She probably was like, God, what is going on? You see this other woman tormenting me. You see her causing me havoc. You see her like having delight in my despair. Lord, are you still there? Are you hearing me? But the Lord never leaves. You understand? The Lord is with you during this time. And the one thing that I love about this story, it says that the Lord remembered her prayer, and in due time she conceived, and after that she like dedicated the son to the Lord, and like was so happy and was so joyful about the things that the Lord has given her. And The thing is, when the Lord meets you in a season that you are so grieved with the things that are in your heart, and he blesses you with that, because I believe if you have good things in your heart that you want, the Lord will deliver that to you. The Lord will give it to you. But he stands outside of time. You understand? He knows that I have to align this person in a certain way, because if you truly and honestly think about it, if I give you the thing that you want every time that you want it, will you really understand that your faith has to be fully and completely on me? Like, you have to truly, truly, truly rely on the Lord and seek him in all things that you do, and know that not all the time he will not answer you right when you want to, but that does not mean he's not listening. That doesn't mean that he's not hearing you. That doesn't mean that he doesn't hear your tears and your cries and all the things that you're going through. And this is in every situation. For Hannah, it was with a child, but for you, it could be through a job. It can also be through a child. It can be for a relationship. It can be for a house. It can be for a marriage. It can be whatever that is deeply in your heart and is grieving you. The Lord hears you. Continue to pray to him. Continue to seek him, for he is refining you at this time. You understand? So in my story, I found the fail, and I found it. The fail found me. Okay. And I was grieved during that time, because, you tell all these people like, oh, I'm studying, I'm on this and that. You feel ashamed, you feel embarrassed. You feel like, okay, what did I do wrong, Lord? Like, didn't I do X, Y, and Z? And I remember every time I went out for lunch, I would play podcasts about people talking about the Lord, and people talking about their own situations, about like hearing how the Lord refined them during that process. And that made me closer to the Lord and really relying on him, that, Lord, you did not take me from going to school in a different country to here, being back in America, to residency. That's a story on its own. And all the struggles that I went through to stop me right here. You have a plan for me, a perfect plan. And I know this, Lord. So there's no way that this is my end game. You understand? So you have to really just speak into yourself what the Lord speaks to you, and know that he, in his right time, he will complete what he started. So I became listening to podcasts, seeking all those things, and really trusting in the Lord. You understand? And while I resumed studying again, trusting in him, seeking what he's saying to me, doing different study tactics, sometimes going to work early and leaving late, because sometimes you think, oh, like, I have to do the same things that I did before, but the Lord will reveal new things to you, new ways to do things, new people to go to, and those will be the things that unlock what you want. So I did all that, and long story short, as I got closer to the Lord, I felt more at ease. The practice scores didn't change too much, but my confidence in the Lord increased, and that is what I really needed. So 3 to 4 months later, I took the test again, and my confidence, honestly, within him, I would say, multiplied tremendously. And when the results came out, I did see pass, and that pass, I will never forget it. I will never forget it, because it really taught me, one of the situations that taught me, trusting in the Lord with everything that you have, knowing that he will deliver you. Even if the first time is failed, the second one will not be, and in his perfect timing. And really, really, truly believe that it was in his perfect timing. And then I started mentoring, and I had a mentee. It's so funny how God works, because he doesn't use, like I said, your own experiences for you. I had a mentee who also struggled during the time with like standardized exams. And because I went through the process, I felt her pain. I knew exactly what she was feeling. A lot of people can give you advice like, oh, the Lord is your strength. The Lord will deliver you. The Lord will do that. But if you never went through trials and tribulations, you don't know exactly the grief that's deeply in somebody's heart. The grief that's in your heart regarding the situation that you're experiencing. But because I have grieved, I understand. I know. I can relate. And I think that when God aligns people's path, he knew I was going to come in contact with my mentee. So that's another reason, you understand? And I was able to relate to her on a different level and have compassion for her on a different level. I really want to leave you with another verse in Isaiah 60, verse 22. And it says, at the right time, I, the Lord, will make it happen. So whatever that's on your heart, whatever is burdening you, whatever that you're praying and wishing for, the Lord will give it to you in his due time. And also ask him, God, in this time, what are you refining and perfecting in me? Because I'm sure the Lord will reveal it to you. He always talks. Do we listen? No. Sometimes we're like, but the Lord is talking. So put on your listening ears. Let's listen to what the Lord has for us. And I really, before this year ends, really want to thank you guys for, tuning in every week with me, listening to the things that I have to say, sharing my stories and testimonies about how the Lord transformed me. I want to wish you a great, happy New Year and happy ending of the year. And I can't wait to see how the Lord transforms both you and me in 2026. Take care and all the best. I'll see you next week.